So she's asking your question if you can feel the spirit in this question.
Oh, yes. Amen.
I just heard amen. That's all I heard.
Amen.
Okay. Can you feel the spirit when you're not at East Bay?
Amen. Come on now.
I know what you say,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what you do.
That's right.
This week's topic is maybe. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But CSL's theme for June is spiritual wisdom and how to follow it. And of course, my interpretation of that is when Daddy gets home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Ernest Holmes' book, and this happens to be our book of the month, Can We Talk to God?
Mm-hmm.
And Can We Talk to God? Here's what Ernest Holmes says. When the universal mind flows through the individual, it comes to the surface of the conscious mind as an actual experience. Truth comes from the inner to the outer self from God. The universal spirit to God, the manifest person. For every person is a direct manifestation of God. There is a greater mind within each one which may be called upon. There is nothing too small or too great for this mind. Listen, be receptive, believe absolutely, be convinced. The one with a great purpose in life is always consciously or unconsciously holding this purpose up to the universal influx, thus causing an outpouring of divine wisdom through his or her own individual mind.
Amen.
So this is what is going on all the time, whether or not you are aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say to you, when Daddy comes home, I continue to say to you that Daddy is always home.
Mm-hmm.
Are you home with Daddy?
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Holmes has another book called It's Up to You. And he says, we have not yet found a man or woman who is not afraid of something. Maybe it is only a fear of having people believe we have a fear.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's only a subjective hold over a tendency from our religious forebears who devoutly believe that God must be feared.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is only the fear of what people will think about us, what we have, what we do, or how we look.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you got all of these things that you're dealing with fear, but nobody wants to admit that they're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Or Ernest Holmes clearly says it right here, that somebody is afraid of something. Now, he even talks about being afraid to admit that you have fear. If you're not in love, though, you're in fear. There's only two places you can be.
Amen. Amen.
You know when you're in love. It's time that you know when you are in fear.
Yes.
That's not so that you can stay there. That's so that you can get up out of there. Okay? I know we have a lot of fears. You know, some of us may be carrying some fears from way back so long, we can't even remember who we knew back in those days, but we are still carrying some of that fear from even our childhood. You know, we're talking about Daddy this month. You know, when Daddy gets home. What if Daddy don't come home? Was that a fear? Do I know my daddy. Was that a fear? You know what they say? Mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Okay? And what if daddy did come home and it wasn't a good thing? There's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of fear around, sometimes daddy needed to come home and be the person who administered some kind of, shall we call it, guidance. Sometimes with an iron fist, unless you lived in the Cleaver home and he just sat down and talked to you when he got home. But here's the thing. I found out that some people have abandonment issues. I know I do. I know I had abandonment issues because my dad left when I was around 12 or so. And he saw me on my bike riding down the alley, and he pulled up and he said, I just want you to know that I'm leaving. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what that meant. So he didn't come back home. So I get, that feeling of feeling abandoned is real for a lot of people. And so what happens is we start to project that on other people. Yes. So I actually had somebody come into my office this week and said, I didn't vote for you. I'm like, okay. Because I thought you were going to leave. And so I had 2 people come to my office this week and say, don't leave. Okay? So that makes me think that I need to tell y'all I'm not going anywhere. I get that you got very used to having Reverend E as your minister, but this is really great that she has been here so long, and not all ministers stay that long. Yeah. But I'm done hopping across the country, okay? I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later. But I need y'all to know that it's okay. Ernest Holmes was very interesting when he was sharing about it is you. And I was particularly interested in him talking about, and it's up to you, that we need to rearrange our thoughts about yesterday so that there won't be any fear or hurt carried over into today. He said, it's up to you to look confidently toward tomorrow so that today you won't be plagued by what might happen in the future. Yes. He said you need to get clear about what the purpose of your life is. And I will be talking about that, by the way, and giving you guidance through my visioning workshop on June 24th, which is visioning for your life purpose. Because you really want to find out, as Ernest Holmes says, where you fit in the scheme of this thing called life. Now, he mentioned that his very good friend was Joseph Strauss. What does Joseph Strauss have to do with you? Well, he was the one that built the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, here's the thing about Joseph Strauss. He's one of the world's greatest engineers. He not only built the Golden Gate Bridge, but he's built bridges in Oregon and Canada and Houston, just all over North America. And he remembered Strauss, Ernest Holmes remembered Strauss saying to him that there isn't anything impossible if you have the will, the know-how, and the determination to make it come true. If you have the imagination to see it as a completed task and the feeling that all the forces of nature are behind you. Now, I don't know if you understand that this Golden Gate Bridge has been there since 1937. And I don't know if you understand that there have been frequent storms while they were trying to build it. That there was fog while they were trying to build it. That there was a cargo vessel that collided with the access trestle while they were building it. They were blasting rock under deep, 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 deep water to plant earthquake-proof foundations. Now, in 1937, there wasn't that much complex machinery going on. So understand, that's what determination looks like. Understand, that's what know-how looks like. Understand, that's what imagination looks like, when you are supported by knowing that all the forces of nature are behind you, no matter what it looks like. So when you have storms in your life, you have to know that all of nature is behind you. When you're having a foggy moment or lots of foggy moments, you have to know that the forces of nature are behind you. When you are in the middle of having an accident and shaking what seems to be the foundation of your being, you have to know that all of the forces of nature are behind you. When it becomes necessary to blast some rock, and that just simply means this immovable, seeming immovable boulder that is in your head that you refuse to let go of, and to be able to plow through that in order to do what you need to do. The forces of nature are behind you. It's important for you to know this, because what Joseph Strauss said to Ernest Holmes was, I'm going to build the biggest things that were ever built. And he did it. But let me tell you where he started. He was hospitalized when he was living in Cincinnati. He was hospitalized laying in the bed, and out the window of his room, he saw a bridge. He's lying flat on his back, okay? And he sees a bridge out the window. And he is a young man, and he is deciding that that is his divine destiny. That's what it feels like when you have all of nature behind you. There is no thing that is not possible when you know this. The beautiful thing about imagination is that it has a way of helping you see things that you may have not even seen before in your life. But once you do catch a glimpse of that, there's something that is sparked within you. There's something that happens that you know, this is something that I have to do. You know that this seems like the next step of my journey that I need to take. There's something about imagination that allows Lisa to write those songs that she was singing this morning. There's something about imagination that allows a composer to be able to compose music underneath some lyrics. There's something about imagination that allows people like me to write books. There's something about imagination that allows people like me to write plays and screenplays and make movies. There's something about the dancer that is able to see themselves dance without knowing the steps. There's something about every person, because we are creative beings. Creative beings mean that you are made out of the image and likeness of creativity. That's what God is. God is all things possible. God is, how about this? Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. But you have to know that it's not just simply coming out of your will.
Yes.
That's how we know the difference between visualizing and visioning. I keep having to teach this all over the country. It's not simply being able to see something that you think you want. It's about feeling into something that is calling you forth because it is part of the unfolding of your soul's journey. So it's important for us to have our mental house in order. Oh, sometimes our mental house is cluttered. Oh yeah, there's all kind of stuff up in there. It's stuff that you don't need, stuff that you're not going to use. Why are you holding on to it? Ernest Holmes was talking, I was listening to him do this radio show. And he was doing radio shows on some of his books. And he was doing this radio show on It's Up to You, one of his books. And he was talking about, your mental house has furniture in it. There's a couch there that you've been sitting on. You got it all relaxed up in it. Right? But, maybe it's time to let go of that couch. I know a little something about that. When I left Los Angeles 12 years ago and went to Chicago, I sold or gave away most of my furniture. And when I got there, my 80-year-old aunt who had just transitioned, it was her house that I was in. And my mother was grieving so much that she wouldn't let me get rid of that furniture. So I had all of this furniture. And when you're starting a church, not taking over a church, hear me now, when you're starting a church, you don't have time to deal with when am I going to move this furniture out, and so you just get used to this furniture being there. So gradually over time, I would release furniture and get new furniture. How many of those thoughts have you been holding on to that should have been gone a long time ago? How many of those pieces of something that are no longer functional are you still holding on to?
Yes.
I mean, I had a couch before I left Chicago that I had to sit on one end of because if I sat in the middle of that was my aunt's couch still. Because if I sat in the middle of it, I would have been on the floor. You know I wasn't going to bring that here. It went in the garbage. But there are things that are just simply holding us hostage in our minds.
Yes.
Like a shackle.
Yes.
Like a shackle that you need to find out how to let go of.
Yes.
You got to let it free you up.
Yes.
So that you are free to move and to be who you were divinely designed to be.
Yes. Amen.
It's time for you to get your mental house furnished by items of your choice.
Yes.
Not what they said, not what mama said, not what grandma said, not what daddy said, not what your old boss said, not what your old teacher said, all of those people that told you that you can't.
Yes. Amen.
Were simply challenging you.
Yes.
That was not a directive, that was an option.
Yes.
And why you chose to take an unfavorable option, I have no idea, but I think it might have to do with some old fear that you had. It might have to do with some old fear that you had when somebody told you that they didn't like you. And I just want to be liked. It might have something to do with that fear when you thought that you got turned down by somebody that you wanted to be with. And you said, I don't know if anybody's going to want me. So there's fear of not being wanted. And you might have something left over from when somebody let you go from a job. And you said, well, I don't know if I'm enough, if I have enough qualifications for this job because they told me no or they told me no more. If there was something that occurred in your life. If it was a guidance counselor that said you're not college material, well, that didn't stop Steve Jobs and a whole lot of other people from becoming billionaires and billionaires, and more importantly, creating new technology that the world had not seen before. So release those shackles from your mind that are holding you hostage. And really understand that the maybe is not maybe I can, but maybe I should, maybe I could, and maybe I will. Because we want to get off of those old things that we've been holding on to. Because what mama did, or what daddy did, or what daddy didn't do, don't have really squat with you. And I want you to know that when daddy gets home, the real daddy, when God gets a hold of you, when you can really feel the Spirit, when you can really feel the Spirit, then stuff starts to move out of your way. And it doesn't become hard to just let it go. It doesn't become hard to step into something new when something is calling you. I make it a point not to run from something, but to run to something. Oh, y'all know I had a job before I left. Come here, don't you? Well, they don't like, well, I'm leaving. Well, what happened? What happened is, God's got something for me to do in Oakland, California, don't you know? God's got something for me to do. And so the response was, well, I can't think of anything more important to do with your life than to answer the calling that your life has on you. Yes. Are you ready to answer the call that your life has on you? Yes. Are you ready to say yes to yourself? Yes. Are you ready to say yes to your magnificence? Yes. Are you ready to step into your true power? Yes. Are you ready to say not maybe, but yes, I can? Yes. Not only yes, I can, but yes, I will. Yes. Not only yes, I will, but yes, I am that I am. That's all I want to know.